this movie is, is gonna slap the crap out of you from
Okay.
sweet kid like vaudevillian recreations of your dreams. My number two is Mad Max Fury Road,
Oh, very
directed
different.
by George Miller, starring Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, Nicholas Hoult, and a whole bunch of other people. Quick log line: in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, a woman rebel against a tyrannical ruler in search for her homeland with the aid of a group of female prisoners, a psychotic worshiper, and a drifter named Max. For me, this movie is on the list because to me, this sort of captures the brutality and the thrill of adventure.
Hmm.
This is sort of those I can't get enough of it, but yet I'm very, very uncomfortable, but yet I have to push through and go on. This is sort of what that
Oh, yeah.
signifies to me.
Hmm.
Um, as a and I'm curious to hear when you watched it, but when I watched it right when it came out,
Hmm.
this movie stands as one of the singular movie experiences for me in
Mm.
recent times. I just remember my heart racing from the moment you sit down and when the movie ends. I just remember feeling that there's like sand all over my face and in my mouth.
Yeah, like
It's
dirty.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, just such a visceral movie experience. And because, I mean, this is not, I mean, I watched this movie when I don't think I was watching every single podcast or was watching every single video, or podcast
Hmm.
didn't even exist at that time. So I kind of went in pretty unaware, and I've not
Mm.
seen any of the other original Mel Gibson Mad Max movies either. So it was a total slap in the face. But absolutely loved it. How about you? Did you watch it when it came out?
I did, yeah. Like though my mental approach was almost kind of like the opposite of yours. Like I'd
Oh,
seen all the Gibson films, not really that. The second one, the second Mad Max film, I think is great for kind of what it is, but I never really took to those too much. I'd seen this maybe a couple weeks after it came out, so it was already like incredibly hyped up when I went and saw it, and I didn't dislike it. I
mm.
wasn't as bowled over as I think the
Oh
critics
wow.
and the audiences were when I saw it. And it's also, I have to it's not my genre. Like I'm not a post-apocalyptic guy. The movie
Same.
is a little like I also felt like you did too about like there was sand in my mouth. Um, because the film was effective, but also because it was it's kind of dirty and gross. And I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know, like that's not necessarily my aesthetic. But I could definitely appreciate how the technical achievements and what this film could do and how transportive it totally was. So I'm not like I think the film is expertly made. It just didn't really land on
Yeah.
me. And even in this rewatch, it was similar. Like I was like, oh, I can appreciate this more than I kind of like it. Um,
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like I'm not a post-apocalyptic person either, but that's sort of what surprised me that
hmm,
in addition to sort of admiring the brilliance and the craftsmanship of the movie, I had a great time as well. I really enjoyed it. Um, and I think a lot of that just has to do, I guess two things. One, the performances pretty much across
yes,
the board.
fantastic.
Everybody's just so committed. Maybe, I mean, Tom Hardy is a question mark to me in this movie.
Oh,
But everybody else, I think, is kind of amazing. I mean, he's good too, as sort of, but for a movie title, Mad Max, he doesn't really have much to do. Like, this is really, I think, more of Furiosa's movie, even though, he's maybe sort of the audience surrogate in some
yes,
ways,
that's why I think
perhaps.
he
Uh,
works in that respect.
exactly. Then I think the world building, right? Like, talk
Hmm.
about creating this whole world, which is tactile and real. And yes, it's grotesque and horrible. You wouldn't want to be there, but you also can't take your eyes away from it,
Right.
And the iconic images that this movie has created, all the way from the guy in the red jumpsuit with the guitar,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
the beautiful women prisoners, to Furiosa, her whole thing, the
Hmm.
makeup, the amputated arm, and all of it. Morton Joe, like his whole headgear and breathing and all of it, like this is already iconic. I feel like this has been around in pop culture for so long, and the movie is
Hmm.
not that old. So,
Right, right.
you know, kudos to them on all of that. But I also think, to your point, like why this movie actually did work on me, even though I had not revisited it since like a
Oh,
couple
okay.
of weeks ago in prep for
Uh-huh.
this, because I have no desire to go back to this world. Unlike Steven Soderbergh, who watches this movie per his watch list that he publishes like multiple times
Hmm.
a year,
Yeah, he's really
which
into it.
I I admire
Yeah.
that. But there is something about what the movie has on its mind, this bigger idea of legacy and power and obsession and who's just existing versus who's the one, grabbing it and sort of wanting to run away with it. And then this metaphor of life, of this, proverbial green place.
Right.
What is that ultimately if life is an adventure, as they say? uh, the movie sort of is mirroring life in that sense, that we are all chasing or being chased to whatever this, heavenly place might be, whatever you might believe in. So, yeah, the movie does have more to its mind, but I think the brilliance of the movie is that it doesn't really lay that thick, at least when you're watching it. The
Right.
point of the movie is to be jolted when you're watching it, and then all these themes come at you much later once you've sat with it or really haunted by it, honestly. So that's why I think this movie does work for me. But yeah,
Yeah.
curious to hear more.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting when because I don't think gone back to this movie since I saw it the first time too, in the theater, and going at it as with this really like looking at it through this adventure lens. I felt actually the Tom Hardy's, Mad Max, who is, I think, definitely much an audience story because he doesn't really do much. He gets taken along for the ride,
Right.
which sometimes adventures can feel like you're not in control. And that really
True.
is kind of an adventure. You're going along in your life is pushing you in a certain direction. You don't really feel like you have much control of what's going on, just kind of going with it and trying to survive. I mean, that is an adventure, and that is definitely what he's going on in that movie. I mean, only very certain scenes he's like does take control and does something that affects the plot, but really he's just observing what Furiosa's on. Like it's her adventure that she's on to try to get to the green place, to try to rescue, the brides and get them to a safe place. And he's just taking along for a ride, like the audience is this whole film, which is a relentless ride. But you're just right along with there with Furiosa as well, much like Mad Max. So I did feel like that is something that I feel in terms of what I attribute to a sense of adventure is a little bit of that, like, well, I'm just kind of along for the ride now. I don't really know kind of what's going to happen, but I'll go with it, And I think that's what Mad Max was doing in this whole movie, even though most of it he wasn't choosing to go with it. He was chained to the front of the front of a truck, going with it, no choice. But I like to think sometimes an adventure is just kind of you go with it and you don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, in some ways, what you just said to me, Nicholas Holt's character is probably more emblematic of that.
Yes,
he doesn't know where he's going either.
Right.
He's really in for the ride, like
yeah.
like just ecstatic and excited to be on it. So yeah, what a world.
Totally.
So yeah.
And actually, Nicholas Holt's character is that's something interesting you brought up too, in the sense of the last movie that I talked about adventure, sense of adventure, going out and doing things can change you. And he does go through a pretty strong character arc. Like he starts off as a villain basically, and then that adventure that he's on with Furiosa and the brides. I don't remember how they're referred to in the brides.
Yeah.
Right. Like he changes into a hero towards the end.
Yeah.
Because of what he experiences, which again shows you that getting out there, being adventurous, going on an adventure can change you in positive ways, just like Walter Mitty was also changed in positive ways.
Yeah, I totally agree. Actually, yeah, this is probably the first time I may have noticed Nicholas Hoult as like a grown-up. I guess he's in the X-Men movies too, but this is the movie, this is the role that I was like, oh, this is like not what I was expecting, and he's really good in it.
He's great.
Yeah, he's really good. And then George Miller as well. I mean, kind of a singular filmography, right? I just can't help but not think that this is the same person who's made Babe and Happy Feet, and you couldn't make something as far away as possible from those movies in this movie. So yeah, pretty incredible. And also making this movie in, I think he was in his 70s, I think, or
like early 70s, late 60s. And it was a very difficult shoot, and no one expected anything out of this. I mean, the Mad Max franchise had been dead since the 80s. Neither of them were huge blockbusters, really. And Mel Gibson, who was the star of those films, wasn't even in the movie. So I'm sure this was not an easy thing to convince financiers to be like, let's make a Mad Max, but remove the the superstar from the film. In a franchise that's basically dead. And then look what happened. It was a giant hit globally. It left an impact on the culture and was, very awarded at the Oscars that year.
Yeah.
So again, maybe he went on a little bit. He was adventurous enough to try this, and look what happened.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.